Hi, this is Sheila from Stampin' Wishes, and welcome to my studio. Today we're making a card that I'm going to call it a surprise triple fold, I guess would be the best way to look at it, or maybe a surprise trifold. I kind of like that wording a little better. Here's one I've made. And as you can see, it's got a little surprise opening, and when you open it up, you have the next one, and then when you open it up, you have the rest of them, okay? And so then the other one I made was this one. I thought it was Cherry and Bright. Okay. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to be using the Poppy Parade, or Painted Poppies I should say, and the Peaceful Poppies Designer Series paper. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and get started with the different stages you need to do. First, you're going to need to be able to score and cut your cardstock, and you'll need one piece, and this is Rich Razzleberry. I'm going to score it at 4 1/4 first, so make sure your blade's out of the way. This is how I like to make my cards with one piece, because usually if I make one, I make two, and in this case you actually need two of them. So then we're going to come over at 5 1/2, and we're going to cut it. Okay, so then you have your two cards, and they've already been scored like this. All right, so next what we need to do is take a sliver off of each side. So what I'm going to do is open this up, and I've got it lined up. Let me move this down so you can see it. I've got it lined up, and I do apologize. I'm trying experimental things. I usually can't see the top of my camera, so it's been going off on me, and I don't know when it is, and I don't know when I'm in line. So this may be a little bit closer than I need it to be, but I'm going to try this one that way. So if it is, I apologize ahead of time. So I line it up with my line there, and then I'm just going to move it over probably about a 1/16 of an inch. You don't need a lot off of it, just a little sliver like this, okay? And you want to do the same thing with the other one. Okay, line it up with your track, and then bring it over just a notch and take your sliver off of it. Alright, so we can set this aside. I don't think we need it right now. Alright, so then what you end up having is your two pieces like this. One piece, and you just kind of have to see how they fit best. For example, if I put this in here and fold it and put this there, that looks pretty good. It all fits in nicely. The back of it looks good when you go to adhere it. If you don't like that setting, then look at it a different way a couple of different times and make sure that it looks the way you want it to look and everything fits in well, okay? Because there is a right way in and there is a wrong way, and you'll find that out as you play with it, because sometimes you'll have that little sliver will show up in the front and you don't want it to show up there. You want it to, if it shows up on the back a little bit, that's okay. You want to have these as flush as you can. If this one here, like for example that one, if you notice, then it's real nice and tight here, and then everything goes together. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So what we're going to do is set this one aside, and I'm going to be using the stamp sets. Let me bring them out real quick that I'm going to be using right now. Okay, I'm using the Painted Poppies, and I'm going to be using this particular, and I can see, I think, through the camera. I'm going to put this on hold for just a second and come right back. All right, so let's get back to this. I lifted the camera just a little bit because I felt like we were just really too close here. All right, so we're using Painted Poppies, and I'm going to use this particular stamp. I always love these little grungy ink spot looking things. I don't know if that's what you call them, but that's what I'm going to call them. So I want to lay this out because we're going to be cutting, as you know, a piece out in here. So I'm going to take my Rich Razzleberry ink pad, and I'm going to take this, and I just want to, I'm going to bring a scrap in so we don't mess up our pretty clean one here, but I'm just going to take this and randomly just stamp it around because keeping in mind that we're going to have something in the center, I don't need to stamp so much in the center on this. And if you wanted to cut first, that would be great too, because then you would know where you want to stamp around, okay? But because I'm kind of having to do this a little bit in stages, I decided to do it this way for the point of demonstration, and then I'll show you here in a second what we've got. So that gives me a nice little area here that I can go ahead and cut that out. So to cut it out, what I decided we were going to use is, let's set this aside for a second, and this, that we were going to be using those new ornate. I just am absolutely in love with this set. I think it is genius. Okay, so I thought this would be real pretty here. Now, if any of you have used this, you know what you get whenever you cut this. It looks like this. The outcome of it will look like this when you stamp it, okay? So I went ahead, just for the sake of time and not having to bring my Big Shot in and everything, was to go ahead and cut this out, okay? So I just wanted to show you what we did use and why this set is just wonderful. Then what I decided I would do is to come in and measure the inside frame of this so I would know what size, and this is what you get once you cut it. Isn't that gorgeous? I mean, it just, oh, I love, love, love it. And so as you can see, it just fits right into here, okay? So I think you're starting to get the picture, because this is going to be staying down, and this is our surprise element inside here. All right, so I needed a piece that was going to fit right in here that I could stamp a floor on. Now, if I wanted to, and I wanted to turn it sideways just to kind of give you an idea, I could have maybe done a greeting out here as well. I mean, there's different ways you can do that. I could say thank you or happy birthday or miss you, just anything on the outside. And then when it lifted up, you would have another element on the other panel, okay? But we're going to do it this way today for what I have in mind. And I haven't made this one, so I'm just kind of going by the seat of my pants, as they say, on what it's going to come out. So after I did some measurements, I found out that the set of our rectangle stitch dies, this was a perfect fit for inside here, okay? So keep that in mind. If you go to get the ornate set, be sure you have this set as well. It'll come in really useful for the inside frames of these different layers that you can get here. Okay, so let's put this aside. All right, so now that we've got these elements and pieces that we know we're going to have, you're going to need 2 4 by 5 1/4 Whisper White pieces. And so we've got them here. I'm going to set one of them aside. It's for the inside. Then I took some of that gorgeous paper, the Peaceful Poppy designer paper. See this one here? Gorgeous, gorgeous. And that particular one is kind of a directional design. And the reason I say that is your flowers will either be sideways, upside down. And so I thought with the design that we were making here, having a layer here and having a layer here would look real pretty with this and this. Isn't that looking great? Okay, and so these particular pieces are 3 1/4 by 4, and that way they fit exactly onto my frame here. And then I took and turned the paper the other way and cut it so that my florals now are standing straight up. Okay, and then I figured on the back, when we get to, let me move this out of the way, when we get to the second layer that's in there, or actually the third layer, I'm going to bring these pieces in, and these are 3 1/4 by 5 1/4. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and stamp our design next. Let's set these aside for the moment. And I thought we would use the one little poppy that's standing there, because I can turn it at different angles and get what I want out of it, okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that one, and let me turn this over to the correct stitching. That's kind of important when you're doing this, is make sure that you've done that on the correct side, because one side, as you can see, has the beautiful stitching evenly done. On the other side, it's the back side of it. You can tell a big difference there. All right, I'm going to use some black Tuxedo Memento and stamp this up, because I'm going to use my Rich Razzleberry blends and just do a little bit of coloring on it. And I forgot we had leaf. Oh no, look what I did. And my sister's probably sitting there because she bought me these really neat little sleeves where that if you get ink on yourself, you can take it off. But we're going to try and make this work. If not, I'll go cut another piece real quick. Let's see what happens when we put this there. We're going to make it go. We're going to go with it. Obviously, if I had more time, I would probably recut that one, but we'll see how it comes out at the end and be more careful from here on out. Okay, so let me get my 2 Poppy Parades out, and then I think we're going to use the Old Olive, since that's the color that is suggested as colors in this particular set. Okay, so let's go ahead and move this out of the way and go ahead and color it. I always usually start with my dark, depending on the design that I'm working on. And I'm going to bring the dark kind of in to the base where you see some of the seeds and the shading and stuff like that. And maybe bring a little bit of it in areas that I think would have a little bit more shading and stuff. Let's go ahead and bring it out here a little bit like so. Okay, and then in there. I know I could just keep going and going, but let's see how this looks when I bring the light into it. All right, so then we want to come in here on the light, and then I start kind of, if I'm in a small area like that, I just start and I keep going through the dark because I want it to seem seamless as it blends into my other colors. And I can bring it a second time down on just the dark area, and what that does is give you a medium shade. I don't know, some of y'all may remember back when we first got blends, we actually did have 3 shades. You had a medium, a dark, and a light. But you don't really need that because I can make my own medium by coming back over what I just did. And I don't want to go up, see how it has a little bit of light there. I want some of that light showing on the petal. But anywhere I feel like I need to blend a little bit more, then I'm going to go back in and blend those colors, and see how nicely all of that blended in and then left me a little bit of a highlight. And I know what we can do here. I may just put me a couple little rhinestones there and cover that up. All right, so next let's get our caps back on. And you'll notice that these caps sometimes are hard to take off, but that's a good thing because it keeps them from drying out. So if yours does get stuck every once in a while, don't think that there's anything wrong with it. Just be careful when you're putting your piece on, and make sure that you don't smush your nibs, and just be patient and pop them on. You'll hear them pop when you know you've got it. What I'm doing here so that I get a blend and that I'm working in a small area is putting some of that dark in different strategic areas. Let me come with some light down here for the thin areas, and I'm just going to drag that color on down to where it blended. Then I'm going to drag this one up, and the reason for that is it gives me that lighter shade again kind of in the center, and the darker I come back over here, then it leaves that a little bit darker, but that one gives that highlight in there. Okay, and so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to blend it at where they meet and bring it on down to lighter. Then I'm going to blend here, and then bring the two of them together. And so now you get that alternating color going on here. Let's go ahead and use our little bigger tip on this, and we're going to go in through here and start blending that color in. I'm focusing mainly on the dark color, just kind of blending it with my other color, and then I'm just lightly floating that color over to the rest, and then I got my different shading techniques. Isn't that fun? All right, so I think we're good with this, and we're going to go ahead and adhere this to our ornament piece here. It's going to be gorgeous once we get my little goof up with some little jewels on there. It's going to be perfect. Okay, so now next I want to actually put on my borders so that I can center this around, and I also have to be cognizant of this piece that's going to go in here and how this will fit. Okay, so I've brought my two pieces together. It looks good from the front and it looks good from the back. So at this time I can actually go ahead and adhere that back so that we've got the pieces together. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to come in here with the back of the piece that's going to go down. And a lot of times I will use my liquid adhesive, but for drying purposes and needing to kind of move along here, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of touch that down, making sure that I didn't touch down too far because I was a little bit over. So let's bring it in here. This is probably a better way of doing it. That way I make sure that I am exactly, this is why the liquid works out well, is exactly where I need it to be. I think that's good. All right, so then this closes on over. I did go a little over the edge. I didn't want to do that, but I did, and that's okay because it's real easy for me to trim that piece off there. Okay, so next now I want to make sure that all my pieces are coming together, so I will put this piece into the center. So this piece will be right in there like so. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so then we're going to bring this in. I'm having to compensate a little bit because it still looks like we've got the two borders because of the piece that we trimmed off here, but had I gone in the way I should have, this would have been backed off a little bit where I have this edge here, and we would have had a little bit more of this material to work with, but I think it still looks great like this. So we're going to fold that in, and then we're going to bring this in where we need it to be, okay? And then I'm going to, hopefully I have a pencil close by. Okay, so I've got it in there. So now what I'm going to do is to make me some little guidelines for bringing and lining this back up once I make the adhesive on it, and then I can erase it afterwards. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring in my adhesive, and again, if I think we could probably put a little, I don't want to get too much of the liquid glue going here, but I will tab it on a few of these pieces. Let me move this out so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put it on a few of the frilly pieces, and that will help it to adhere down without catching on something from the outside. Okay, so I'm just randomly dropping a couple of drops here and there just so I get a nice little touch without getting too much. Okay, so now I want to line it back up with my little guidelines here, and everything lines right back up. Okay, so now after this dries, I'll come back with a little dab of my eraser deal and get off these little eraser marks, but it's still got a little bit of adhesive drying on it, so I don't want to do that right now. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is put our border strips here. And this one looks like it should be at the bottom because it looks like the bottom of a flower. So I'm going to adhere it here and this one at the top there. Isn't that gorgeous? It's just really coming together pretty. And I'm not going to do it because I don't want to, now that I've got everything on, but had I thought about it, what would have been pretty to kind of follow the same theme as what's on the front is I would have taken the smaller little paint splotch here and maybe randomly put some right here on the side. And the only reason I don't want to do it because if I mess it up, then I've messed up the whole card and I don't want to have to mess up this much work put into it and material. Isn't that gorgeous? Yes, it is. Okay, so now we're going to open it up, and this is where our third piece comes in. Now, on the third piece is where I want to place my side pieces, if you'll remember. So I'm going to come in here, and let me see if I kind of lined these up so that I would have them ready when we did. So let's put these pieces right in front just to kind of see, does it look like we're going to be able to make it? And I think we just will. And if I needed to bring a 1/8 of an inch off of here or 1/16 of an inch, I could do that too, but we'll see how it looks once we get done. So let's go ahead and use our Rich Razzleberry ink and ink this up. And one of I just love our Stamparatus, and one of the reasons that I do use the Stamparatus so much is that it's so easy if you miss some of your inked area and not realize it, and you come down and it's not a nice print, then you can go right back in and do it again, you know. So I like that. I think this is a delicate lettering, so I don't think we need to do anything else to it. All right, so let's bring this off and close our ink so I don't make another boo-boo, and I'll just make sure and wipe my hands off real good. All right, so now we're at the point that we want to go ahead and let's go ahead and put this down in here, and this will help us too when we're eyeing our pieces that are going to go on when we do a dry fit to decide whether or not we need anything else going on as far as the trimming of it before we lay it down. And if I lay it down and then center this, I won't know how that's going to look. So I think that looks good there. All right, so let's go ahead and dry fit these in. And I do think probably an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch would be plenty. Let's go ahead and, you know, I've got my little cutter here. This might be a quick way of doing it. I don't know if y'all, any of you that may have become new demonstrators at the celebration time. All right, so if any of y'all have been thinking about becoming a demonstrator, and this would be a really good time of the year to do it. Okay, didn't that come out gorgeous? All right, let's bring the other ones in and I'll finish talking about. But if you're contemplating becoming a demonstrator and say you don't want to make it a business, you just want to be a hobbyist, that is great because we're set up for both being a business person or being a hobby demonstrator. And this is the time of year that our new catalog is about ready to launch. We all get so super excited about seeing the new things that are going to be coming in. And so this would be a wonderful time for you to be able to become a demonstrator now and get in on the sneak preview and ordering of our demo items, so our demonstrator items, and get a discount at the same time. So if you've been contemplating it and you don't have a demonstrator right now, I would love to have you on my team. So let's go ahead and set up these again. It may be a little bit hard to get them all in the scene. I'm as far out as I can go. Let me see if I can bring the camera up just slightly without making too big of a mess here. Okay, let me try something else here. Excuse the wobbling. Let's see if I was able to get it all in there. It looks like I did. There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you for dropping in. I appreciate it. Stay safe and happy creating. God bless. Hi everyone. I wanted to come back real quick and show you. I had forgotten, remember my little boo-boo that I had there? I decided the pearls would really accent this particular one. So what I did was take my little pearl embellishments and I placed them all around here and in each corner of my flower and then that. So I really think this brought it together, finished it off, and no one would ever know except for who watched the film that there was even a goof up to begin with. All right, until next time, God bless.